That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther. I'm a flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther, flat earther.
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther.
For sound bites. This is awesome.
All right, thank you for joining us once again at Anti-Religious Scripture Study with Karen B. and Just Jack.
What's up?
There we go. Let me turn your. I had to turn your picture off because now your camera's on. All right.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, I wasn't going to go live because I didn't want to take the time to brush my hair, so I just put my hat on.
That's what I do. That's my cheat. I just put my hat on when I really am lazy. I'm like,
Yeah, I was definitely short on time because I started translating our next chapter, which is chapter 36. But as I was translating it, I realized that this is going to be a very long, in-depth translation of generations of Esav. So when you get into the translations of names, it gets very tedious. Not that I couldn't do it, it's just some people may not prefer to go through the generations. And I suggest that everyone do it themselves because you can go on this journey of investigation to all these names and stuff. It's pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, we were crunching on time and there was no way I was going to get chapter 37 done by 11:11. So I asked to go on at 1:11 and I got all but the last 2 verses translated, but we have enough here that I can look at the Interlinear and we can discuss the last couple verses if need be.
right.
And for people that don't like the way that we're doing things, it's time for my disclaimer. Just Jack's disclaimer. To the religious, if you believe it's wrong to study scripture outside of your religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then the stream is not for you. To others, if you're open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe there's truth in scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then this stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for root words as well as context, from a non-religion perspective, as well as life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict the scriptures. There you go.
Very good.
All right.
All right. Okay. So what I have up here is that chapter 36 that Jack was just talking about, Esau's descendants.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, we're not going to read through all that.
It's a lot. I mean, just looking at it, in English, you can see that's a lot. So then imagine each one of those names is a sentence. It's a whole descriptive thing for each one of those names. So it gets very, very big, as far as word content. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's large. It's a large chapter in English, and it's right. Even more tedious in Hebrew. Not that I mind it. I actually enjoy digging in and look at the translations of names and such because it's interesting. If nothing else, like you get some context of how the way they saw things, by their translations. You can see that they, the perspective of the way that they that they created their names is what they were dealing with, Mm-hmm. So I did I have a little bit translated, like 12 verses of it, before I realized, okay, this is going to take too long.
Right.
So actually I made it to 14. And then I realized to translate this whole chapter would just be too much for me to try to do this morning. And I am working 3 employments right now. So
3, wow.
Yeah. So I have 1 in Florida and 2 in Florida and 1 in South Carolina that I'm doing work for. So
that's great.
Yeah, it is great because for those of you who know, I struggled without employment for 10 months straight and I was going in the negative. It was very bad. And then my wife's car got wrecked and my truck engine broke down. But it's times like these where I appreciate these bad things happening because then you can see on the flip side how things work out.
Right.
And you never think. It never is the way you think it is, the way it works out. So
Right.
it's always entertaining, if nothing else.
And stressful.
And stressful, yeah. It's definitely a lot less stressful now than it used to be. You know, after you see the constant, how can I put it? When you see the constant way of getting out of situations and you trust that that will always be that way, then it doesn't stress you out as much. Like, I know that those truth seekers have to deal with a lot of stressful interactions with people who are not truth seekers, but in the end, it doesn't change who you are or what you are or the benefits of knowing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's very stressful, right? Looking at it from the outside, looking in, like, why won't these people get it? They're basically becoming our enemies by fighting against looking into subjects. But ultimately, you feel joy and peace about knowing truth,
Right. Exactly.
Alrighty. So we can get into it anytime you're ready.
Alrighty.
Unless you want to talk about anything else. I went to Columbia last weekend.
Oh yeah, did some
flat
activism.
smacking. Yeah.
Right on.
That was fun. And there was a guy who, when I first started going there, he would show up at the table to fight with us. Because I only go on Sundays. They usually go up there on Saturdays. So this guy is like a regular troll at their table. And when I first met him, he's like, I'm a physicist. I know about science, blah, 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 blah. So I held his feet to the fire on air pressure without a container,
Mm-hmm.
and the proof of spin, the proof of movement, perpetual. And, there was a few other things that he was just like, he wouldn't listen to reason. He just wanted to fight. And the last couple times I went, he's like, oh yeah, you don't have to convince me. I know it's flat. And he's like, he goes through all the proofs. And it's like, this is the same guy that was like begrudgingly fighting against these flat earthers. And now he is one. So it's very interesting to see the transformation over time.
That's so cool.
All right.
Okay.
And you can catch some of that on That Flat Fellow. Subscribe today.
Yes, That Flat Fellow. I think he's in my my featured channels on the Karen B channel. I don't know if I've updated it to be on this channel, on the UTR channel, but on the Karen B channel, if you go to the community or the channels tab, I'm pretty sure That Flat Fellow is one of the channels there. So if you can't find him, you can link that way.
Very cool.
All right. Where are we at? Okay. Joseph's dreams. Oh, that sounds so romantic.
These headings, man, I tell you. Like this whole chapter is not about his dreams. I mean, it starts with Yaakov is dwelling in Canaan, and these are the generations, and this is not all about Joseph's dreams, but people get these like sound bites from churchianity that when they read this chapter, they're like, oh, that's the chapter about Joseph's dreams, because it's all about Joseph being the dreamer. Mm-hmm. Right? The Technicolor, super coat, which we're going to get into that. It's not even a correct translation when it says coat of colors, but we're going to get into that.
Okay. All right. And Yaakov dwelt in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. This is the genealogy of Yaakov. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the young man was with his sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought an evil report of them to his father.
And remember, evil is dysfunctioning.
Right.
So he's bringing an evil report. Okay, if you say so. But you're going to see what the report is that he's bringing. So okay. It's not evil. but it causes dysfunction.
Right, okay. And Yisrael loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a long robe.
Okay, stop there.
Okay.
Long robe is a good translation by the scriptures. Good job. When I translate these folks, I translate them with the Hebrew characters and nothing else. And I look at it from the Interlinear, change your version to HSBR from TS 2009, and you can show them what I use when I translate. So that's what I'm looking at. I pay no attention to the blue except for to try to keep myself in context of where I'm at, try to find my place. But I only use those for the numbers so that I can pull up the dictionaries and stuff like that. So if you look there, it says coat of many colors, right? Mm-hmm. But now go back to, or no, don't go back. Push the number there for 6446. I think you have to right click and then define is the way you told me. I know it changed since the update, so over there, see, it says the palm of the hand. What does that have to do with color? Okay, let's go to the ancient Hebrew. Maybe there's something hidden in the ancient Hebrew that tells us about color. The end, the wrist, the sleeve, the hand, disappear, the end. Where's color?
Yeah, I don't see anything that looks
There
like
is no color.
No.
So color actually comes from a poor Greek translation of the scriptures and then translated into the English.
So here
it got carried on.
From the original sense of the root, that is of many breadths, diverse colors.
Yeah. So what they're saying there with that dash diverse colors is it's been translated as diverse colors.
Okay.
But it's not diverse colors.
Right.
It's long. In other words, like, this is not a robe you would go out into the field and work in. This is a nice robe that went all the way down to your hands and all the way down to the ground. It's a very nice coat, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something you go doing shenanigans in. Now, is it possible that it was made of many colors? Yeah, it is possible. But the fact of the matter is it literally translates as the coat of, if you look at my translation, it's just the coat of extremity. It's the coat that goes to the end, wrist, ankle, Right. So it's a long, flowy coat.
A long robe. Okay, so
long robe is not bad at all. Okay. Yeah.
But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and were not able to speak peaceably to him.
Yeah, they were not able to, let's see. They were not able to word of complete peace, right? They could not speak shalom to him at all. So that's pretty bad.
Okay. And Joseph dreamed a dream and told it to his brothers, so they hated him even more.
So here's the bad report, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's not a bad report. He's just telling them his dream.
Right. Okay. And he said to them, "Please listen to this dream which I have dreamed. See, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field. And see, my sheaf rose up and also stood up. And see, your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf."
Okay, do you know what sheaves are?
I do not.
Okay, so sheaf is standing grain. So they would put their arms around a large clump of standing grain and they would bind it, right? Okay. So that's why it says bind and sheaf are the same word. Ah. So it's the binding, right? So when it's talking about like when they do the harvest and the wheat is tall, we typically don't see tall wheat shown in our culture because we cut it when it's like waist high at most. But they let it grow really tall. If you think of like corn stalks, right? Like that kind of height.
Mm-hmm.
and they would wrap their arms around it and then tie a cord around it, and then they would cut the bottom of it with a sickle, and that was how they harvest. So he's talking about he's having a dream of these sheaves when these are tall stalks of grain that are tied together.
Okay.
And his binding of sheaf is taller than theirs. It's set up like a pillar.
Okay. And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Shall you indeed rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words.
Yeah, it says roll twice, but that's fine. It's also the word that they use in Genesis 1 for dominion. Same word. So they're translating the dream. He's not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole thing where people are like, well, Joseph was the dreamer and the interpreter of dreams, et cetera, but here his brothers are like, we know what this dream means. Right? So Joseph's not translating it to them. They're translating it themselves. I just thought that was interesting while I was translating it.
Mm-hmm. And he dreamed still another dream and related it to his brothers and said, "See, I have dreamed another dream, and see, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bow down to me."
Right. So the sun and the moon and the
11 stars.
11 stars. Yeah. So he has 11 brothers, and he has a father and a mother. Okay. So that's, yeah. I was trying to see if this was the place where, okay, that's witness again. Okay, never mind. I have something else to show you later, but it's coming up.
Okay. And he related it to his father and his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall we, your mother and I, and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" See,
now this is Yaakov, Yisrael, that's translating his dream. I'm the sun, your mother's the moon, the 11 stars are your brothers. He's translating it.
Right. And his brothers envied him, but his father guarded the word.
All right, so his brothers are ticked off about it, but his father's like, dang. This dream is, you're saying you're going to be the boss of me?
Joseph sold by his brothers. And his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem.
Yep.
And Yisrael said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am."
Yeah, and that "here I am" shows up many, many times in the scripture. It's like a prompting, like, I'm ready, like, send me type of thing. Here I am.
And he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the sheep, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem.
Yep.
And a certain man found him, and see, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What do you seek?" And he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please inform me where they are feeding their sheep." And the man said, "They have left here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go towards Dothan.
Doton.
Yeah.
Doton.
Doton?
Yeah. Doton.
Okay. Doton. Okay. Yes, Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Doton. Doton. Weird.
Doton. Yeah.
And they saw him from a distance, and before he came near them, they plotted against him to kill him. And they said to each other, "See, this master of dreams is coming."
So they're mocking him.
Right.
But look at the word master in the translation.
Baal.
Right. Baal.
Lord.
Yeah. Like, the false deity Baal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not calling him Baal, the false deity, but they're calling him Baal Dream, right? Baal of the dreams, master of the dreams.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now then, come and let us now kill him and throw him into some pit, and shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. Let us then see what comes of his dreams. Ooh, that's nasty.
So wild beast is the dysfunctioning living thing consumed all of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to see what comes of his dreams.
That's mean.
Yeah, these are the these are the chosen of Yah, right?
Right.
These are the righteous tribes, but no, they definitely had to deal with issues. Yep.
Yeah, but Reuven heard and rescued him from their hands and said, "Let us not strike his being."
Okay, so strike his being is interesting. It's like we will palm or crush us. We will. So the palm or crush is it's just a letter. It's the kaf, which means the palm of the hand, which by extension means to crush.
All right.
So we will crush. We will. Yeah.
And Reuven said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, in order to rescue him out of their hands and bring him back to his father." So it came to be, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his robe, the long robe, which was on him.
Yeah, that's the extremity robe. Yeah.
And they took him and threw him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal, and they lifted their eyes and looked and saw a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels, bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to take them down to Mitzrayim.
Okay, so this is the castaway Abraham's son, Ishmael, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the descendants of his. And then they're bringing spice, which is literally translated as the crushed heads, balm, which is literally the presses, and then myrrh is actually that which is to cover or to contain. Myrrh was used when you bury a dead body because the smell of myrrh was so strong that it would overpower the smell of death.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, when you talk about like gold, frankincense, and myrrh, like people may heard that reference before, that myrrh is like it's burial ointment. It actually smells bad, but it's better to smell myrrh than to smell death. So
Okay.
some people like the smell of myrrh, but yeah, it's strong and it's pretty bad.
I can't say I've smelled it. I can't say that I have smelled.
Yeah, true myrrh is bad. Frankincense is awesome, but myrrh is like ugh, like it almost makes me want to vomit. So.
Oh,
anyway.
okay. All right. And Yehudah said to his brothers, "What would we gain if we kill our brother and conceal his blood?"
And this is, what is our cut, our profit?
"Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh." And his brothers listened.
All right, hold on one second. I must have passed it. I was looking for it in the translation, but I think I missed it. So I'm going back a few verses to find that thing that I was trying to show you. Okay, so go to 37, or hold your place so you're at 37:27. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But go back to verse 8.
Okay.
And then where it says they hated him even more.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Interlinear.
Which one's that?
The HSBR.
Oh, okay.
Hebrew study.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No. Yeah.
I gotta
verse
go
8.
back up to 8. Hold on.
You're out.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So the middle word there. Down one, up one, right there. Wait, up one. Right there. Okay. So if you look, that is the same as Joseph's name. Because Joseph's name means that he will do, gather, and store. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So where it says that they hated him yet the more is actually they Yosefed the hate. So they Yosefed again their hate. So they're storing up their hatred to Yosef. So this is something called a Hebrewism, right? It's poetic. They're using there's another Hebrew word that they could have used for storing up or gathering,
Mm-hmm.
but here they specifically used his name as of like they're storing up, they're Yosefing their anger towards Yosef.
Huh.
So I found that interesting, and it happens a couple of places. It repeats it a few times, but I didn't catch it when we went through it because, the English throws me off because it says they hated him even more. Let's see. Okay, so 37.5 has the same thing. So that's a Hebrewism. That shows you that the original dialect of the translation of the Torah, because there are some people that will argue it was originally written in Greek. Some people will argue that it was originally written in Aramaic.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's so many Hebrewisms throughout the scriptures that it would be hard to like shove all this poeticism in there after the fact.
Right.
Right. So this kind of alludes to the fact that the original tongue that this was translated to or from is Hebrew.
Right. Interesting.
Because of Hebrewisms. Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. That's a linguistic thing. It's not. I find them very interesting every time I find Hebrewisms, and there's a few of them in here. That's just the one that stands out. Like for instance, binding the sheaves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the same 3 Hebrew root letters. One means bind, one means sheaf, but it's both the same word.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Right.
All right.
All right.
So we're on verse 28 because he said,
Right.
let's sell them to the Ishmaelites. Yeah.
Right.
And it's actually Yishmaelim because Im is plural, right? So it's
Right.
the plural of Yishmael.
Okay. And men, Midianite traders, passed by. So they pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they took Joseph to Mitzrayim.
Yep. And Mitzrayim is later called Egypt.
Okay.
So here we have Midianites that sold, it says, Midianites traders passed by. They pulled Joseph and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites. Okay. So which is it? Well, Midianite and Ishmaelites were hanging out at the time. And they're actually brother
Hold on
tribes.
sec. I'm sorry, I'll be right back.
That's okay. So one of the sons of Abraham was Midian, and one of the sons of Abraham is Ishmael. But they often work together as, neighboring cities, brother states, whatever you want to call them. And they're taking them to Mitzrayim.
Right,
and remember, all these names, Midia, Yishmael, and Mitzrayim are all names of individuals that you can find in the genealogies. So the genealogies are important in that way too, because you get to kind of find out where these nations even originated from, what families they came from, what children they came from.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave you some content while you were gone.
Thank you. All right. And Reuven returned to the pit, and see, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his garments.
Now, Reuven was not there when his brothers sold Joseph. So he was like, let's not kill him, let's throw him in a pit. And then he's like, where is he?
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. And he returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and where am I to go? So
yeah, because he's like, he's thinking about, like, I have to go back to dad now.
Right.
And explain why my brother's missing.
Right.
Right? That's basically what's going on there.
So they took Joseph's robe, slew a male goat, and dipped the robe in blood.
Yeah, and it's literally hairy. They slew a hairy and a goat. And the King James Version translated it as kid, as in baby goat, but it's not. It's hairy goat.
Oh. And sent the long robe and brought it to their father and said, we have found this. Please look. It is the robe of your son. Is it the robe of your son or not?
Yeah. Please discern the knowing of the coat of your son or not.
And he recognized it and said, it is my son's robe. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is torn to pieces.
Yeah, and this is the same term that they used earlier when they said, let's get an living dysfunctional thing, right? That's the story that they're going to tell. So they may have gave him those details, but it's not recorded here. But his response to hearing the details is, yes, look, this dysfunctional living thing consumed all of him, and it tore him, tear and prey is the same word. So you could say they made a terror prey of Yosef, basically.
Okay.
They tore him like prey. Like, yeah.
Right.
Because it says it twice, it's probably not torn to pieces. It's probably torn like prey.
Right. And Yaakov tore his garments and put sackcloth on his waist and mourned for his son many days.
Typical for that culture to rent your garment, to tear your garment, like you're super stressed out. So you're like, you rip your clothes. And sackcloth is it's kind of like burlap sacks. If you know what that is, it's very rough. So he's like, I don't even want to feel good. It's like listening to sad music and crying all day.
Right.
Right.
And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, now let me go down into Sheol to my son in mourning. So his father wept for him. Okay,
so Sheol. Now I haven't even translated this verse yet. As you can see, there's missing blanks here. Okay. But let's go to the Hebrew Interlinear, and let's see. What does it say there?
I will go down
about unto my son mourning
into the grave.
Into the grave. Wept. So is this Sheol? No, they just decided to put a capital S on it and make it a title of a specific place. Like the land of the damned, or the land of the evil, or the land. But Sheol, later translated as Gehenna, later translated as hell, is just the grave. I'm just saying, though. Okay?
All right.
Everybody can look into that for themselves. Don't take my word for it, because there's some places where it literally cannot be translated as anything but the grave, because it literally talks about, okay, so you're going to take his body and put it in Sheol. So do these people travel to the underworld to bury their people? No, it's just the grave. I'm just saying, though.
Yeah. And the Midianites had sold him in Mitzrayim to Potiphar, Potiphar? Is it far or par?
No, it is far. It is
Potiphar.
Potiphar, and it's Midianites. So
Midianites?
Yeah.
Midianites? Midianites?
It's m,
M,
dai,
die,
naim.
night.
So Midian, but it's mo d, so Midianites. The M doesn't have an actual vowel connected to it. It's just like a mo, Midianites.
Okay.
All right.
An officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard.
So I only did not translate the last two verses. Okay, but Pharaoh also is an interesting word where it has ra in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say the mouth of evil or the mouth of dysfunction is Pharaoh. And does that mean that the pharaohs called themselves pharaohs? No, they had a different term for their language. But the Hebrews called him Paro, which is the mouth of evil, or the mouth of evil-ing. But yeah, it's interesting. In Hebrew, it's the mouth of eviling. So, but that was their title for him. All right, that's the end of the chapter. I got all of 2 done. Not bad for like cramming like for the last 2 hours.
No, pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, if y'all even knew what I go through to translate these things, and I hope y'all appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm gonna jump. I guess I'm gonna click your link here, go to chat, see if anybody's mentioning anything. It may not work because if I put it on live, I'm not going to see the back chat or whatever. Come on, chat. Show up. Okay, there it goes. Going to live. Yeah, it's not the Catholic's idea of hell. Yep. Yep. Good and bad people go to hell when they die. That's right. Yep, it's the pause button. It's the difference between the conscious knowing of life and the conscious knowing of eternity. So, all right. Yeah. Caleb Brooks is on the up and up, man. He knows some stuff. That's what's
Right
up.
on.
Hey, Wes Fe. Hey, Aisling. Good to see you, Cammy. Caleb.
Hey, Cammy.
Let's see who else is in here. Mother Dragon, again, good to see you. Brian Stavely, who's that guy? Globebusters Bob, how you doing? Doc Michael, good to see you, brother. I'm just scrolling through. Awesome Austin, if he's still here, good to see you, man. All right, I can only go back to 1:30, so. Oh, man. So, yeah, if you went through 36 and translated it, you know, that would be probably a 2.5 hour show just going through all the names, you know, easily. So I challenge everyone, you know, just pick a couple of verses and translate the names, and it might inspire you to translate the whole chapter just because it's so interesting. I mean, I was doing it today, and there were some names that I haven't translated before where I was like, wow, that's pretty profound, that translation. So I'm too on the spot right now to pull them out, but
Right.
it's really, you'll have to take my word for it until you look at it for yourself, but it is very interesting. We went through a few of them ourselves in one of the episodes where it's like, oh, that's interesting that it has the same name as a currently known deity, you know, as if those great men were deified in later generations, right? Our ancestors, you know, and some cultures like admit to that, like they admit that their ancestors are their deities, you know, so it becomes very problematic. So what's the difference between your dead relatives and the creator of all things, right? If you're blurring those lines, so to speak. Now, do I believe that we are Elohim in the flesh? Yeah, I absolutely do. And I believe there's good Elohim and bad Elohim. But there's only one creator. There's only one source of all life and existence, which is Yehovah, which means existence, that which was, is, and will be.
Right.
So that's the distinguishing thing between, like, for instance, looking at Yaakov, that was later called Yisrael, or Yisrael, is that he was also one of those ones that was like, well, there's other deities around, but I'm going to choose to only go after the creator. But then when you look at Esav's descendants, some of his children are named after false deities. So that's interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Esav, who knew the creator, like, you know, his father was Isaac, right? Abraham, Isaac, Esav, Yaakov. He knew about Yehovah, but yet he also entertained the idea of other deities having an effect in his life. And deities do not have effect in your life unless you put them there, right? That includes the ones that you conjure yourself, right? If you create a deity, a manifestation of your own negative energy,
Mm-hmm.
then you give that thing power, well, then it exists. It exists to you. But it doesn't exist to anybody else unless they accept that, you know, accept that as a real thing. It's very interesting when you get on the metaphysical realm where it's all about consent, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the controllers of this realm, the physical controllers of this realm, the people, they know this, which is why they present things to us. And then if we do not deny them, then we're consenting to them, you know. You know what I'm talking about. Some stuff we can't talk about here.
Yeah.
But if you do not deny these things, then you are consenting. And so they can harass you, but they cannot force you.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So I hope that, I definitely hope that there was more meat in the subject than chapter 36, but I don't know. 36 has got a lot of meat. It's just, it's hard to, like, sit down and go through it. But yeah, if you look at some of these names, they're really long. So they're like, there's like this whole story within a name. It's very interesting. Like,
Yeah.
right there, Baal Hanan, right?
Right.
Baal is, you know, Lord,
Mm-hmm.
but that is specifically deity Lord, Baal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Akbor, does that sound familiar at all?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it too much, but yeah, that has made an appearance recently. So yeah, it's very interesting. The different names and what they mean. And we were looking at chief. We can go ahead and look at that really quick.
Okay.
So see all those chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were like, okay, what does King James say?
Mm-hmm.
And what does King James say?
King James calls them Duke.
That's right. Now, why? Because in their culture, in the English culture, in the Old English culture,
Mm-hmm.
a duke would be a master of a land, right? So, but if you look at the actual definition, it's the word Aleph,
Mm-hmm.
which Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it's an ox head, meaning first, strong. You know, it's where we get Elohim. The first letter is Aleph, which is strong, and Lamed, which is a staff for leading. So strong leader, right? So Aleph literally means the first.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be the first Bigdeal, the first Iram, and so on and so forth. So it's the first of their tribe of that name. And then later you might be Kanaz the third, Kanaz the seventh, you know, but these are the first. So they're heads of families.
One who's yoked to another to lead and teach.
Yep, because you have the... Okay, we can get into this. I mean, I don't mind. When you are cultivating land and you're using a plow, what you would do is you would have a big ox tethered, yoked to a smaller ox, a new ox, a young ox, because the big ox will tell the young ox, okay, this is how we walk these lines. This is how we walk the straight lines to get these grooves in the ground for for them to plant in. So yeah, it's about the yoking is about the ox heads, right? Aleph, ox head, and it also means to teach, right? Because it's your head, and where do you do your learning is with your head. So it's very interesting. Like, when you get into Hebrew, the depth of the language is amazing. But it actually, if you break down the word Aleph, it's Aleph Lamed Pei or Fe, which means head leading of the mouth. So that's interesting in itself. And if you see there, it says udder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's head leading of the mouth.
Interesting.
Is that udder as in speaking, or is that udder as in
Cow
of
udder?
a cow? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
It's udder as in speech, yeah.
Right. Udder from the cow is spelled with 2 D's, isn't it? Udder.
I don't know. I guess English is not my best language.
I'm horrible at spelling. I always have to double check my spelling.
I'm always Googling my spelling just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because English's rules change so often, it's annoying.
Yeah.
You think you got it down, I before E, except after C, except for.
Right. Right.
It's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, spelling is a pain in the butt for me too. But I'm not the type of person that actually likes reading and writing at all. This is the only subject where I've immersed myself, where I'm doing a lot of reading and writing,
Yeah.
Because it just, yeah.
Because it's interesting, because you want to know it.
Yeah, it's so in depth. Like, there's so much to it that, you think that you know what it says, right? Like, I've talked to people who said that they've read the Bible like 47 times in their life or whatever. I've read the whole thing front to back 47 times. And I'll quote a verse. Quote a verse that's in the scripture, in King James, mind you, right? Because that's what they're studying in. And they won't even know that verse is in there. So it's one thing to just read through it, and then there's another thing to study it. It's completely different. You could read the Bible 1,000 times and not have it understood, not process the information, because it's just reading. That's why I hated reading assignments, in school, where they would do like reading comprehension, right? Where I would just give a short synopsis, because you can like pretty much sum up the whole thing in a couple of sentences, and they're like, oh no, you need to have it like whatever it is, 1,000 words long or whatever it is. And you add a lot of and thes to make it longer. I hated writing essays, but this stuff I love getting into, because it's like every word is so deep,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other udder. Yes, Karen B. Okay, so they verified my question about spelling. Yes. Okay, cool.
It's the other udder. Yeah, I see that.
It's udder for cow, not udder and
utter. Yeah. But,
all right.
But we don't say that, right? We say udder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Either way.
We do.
Udder and udder. Yeah. All right.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, everybody.
Shabbat.
Yeah. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for being here. Keep it flat. And
It is still flat.
Yes,
I checked.
Still flat.
Even the physicists now agree. After 2 years of convincing, they now agree the Earth is indeed flat and closed. So
there you go.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
All right,
Thanks for being here. See y'all next week.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.